And away we go. Welcome, everybody. Tuesday post market wrap up. For those of you new, we talk about some sweeper activity, market conditions, and a little sentiment. Give you an idea of maybe a couple things to keep an eye on for the remainder of the week, what we've been seeing in the first 2 days of the week. And so far, so bullish. Things have been looking good. Nice squeeze off the bottom. They continue to catch shorties here, trying to catch, I guess you could say an overdone top, right, to the rally here. And let's talk about that a little bit, because that's kind of my impression here of what's taking place. Okay. And we've been talking about this, for those of you who are members, we've been talking about this a lot of late, because we see it happening without a doubt on an intraday basis more than on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's the transition from this point. We're going to see it start to take place on a daily basis rather than intraday basis. And what I mean by that, you had a nice squeeze here off the lows, okay? And bullish, bearish, no matter what your thesis is on the overall, the big picture of this market, when you see something like this and some of the names out there like a Netflix, some of the moves they've made basically in a straight line, you don't really need to look at sentiment or any indicators. Just to put it this way, anything you look at, from breadth to technicals to sentiment, it's going to show that things are a little stretched. A bit stretched. And honestly, it could have been even worse, in my opinion, especially on the sentiment side. But it was kind of like a grind in a sense, with a lot of intraday fades in between. Okay. So basically, you have every eyeball on the same thing. Okay. Everybody realizing the same thing. You got a lot of chatter out there of a double bottom, right? A test of the lows. We've been hearing that nonstop throughout this whole push higher. So what happens, from my experience, what happens quite often when everybody's on the same page, everybody's looking at the same things, you get these pump fakes, okay? And initially they start, like I mentioned earlier, on an intraday basis, and then the next step would be on a day-to-day basis. And what you see is you'll see a rally early morning, right? We've been seeing sweepers come out with a gusto every morning, momentum players, squeeze players. And then when the flow dries up a bit and the market seem a little bit toppy, you get a little whoosh lower, okay? And a lot of the retail money out there, again, whether they're bullish or bearish, they're looking to be tactical. And they're looking at this point here as a better opportunity on the short side, right? Because even the bullish of bulls out there, people who are extremely bullish big picture, you hear them talking about some sort of retest of the lows. All right, so the retail crowd, they think, obviously, they're trader of the year. They think they're Jesse Livermore. And rather than saying, all right, I'll take what the market's giving me and I'll sit tight and maybe wait for a pullback or a test of those lows to add some risk on the long side, they want to catch the short, right? This is too appetizing. From here to potentially down here, that's big money they see in their eyes. They fail to look at how difficult it's going to be, because no matter what, with so many eyeballs on the same trade, it's highly unlikely that we go from here down to there in a straight line without a significant number of squeezes and pump fakes in between. Okay, so everybody may be right as far as that double bottom or test the lows hypothesis they've come up with, but what they fail to realize is how difficult the market makes that opportunity, or to take advantage of that opportunity. All right. And I think that's what we've been seeing. Okay, and what's going to happen now, you see, like, for example, this is what I'm talking about on an intraday basis. All right, so you see, you get rallies here. Then again, I'm not signaling anybody out, but even in the steam room, we were hearing people murmur about failed breakout, buyers looking tired, time to short. Okay, just based off this, just based off basically 10 minutes of price action, they've come to the conclusion that that's it, rally over, time to make a boatload of money on the short side. And what happens? Those shorts get squeezed. And then you get this. Okay? And that continuously happens until the shorts finally get frustrated. Right? You had it here at the top too, into the Brexit thing, right? The market, there was some decent selling off that Brexit thing. I'm sure a ton of retail money tried to short that, and then they get squeezed into the close. Okay? So what ultimately happens is both sides are going to end up frustrated, likely from here. Okay? Even the bulls will get frustrated from here, because the likelihood is that we're going to at least consolidate or pull back at some point here. All right. But like I said, the trade is not going to be that easy. It's not going to be that obvious. All right. So what do you do when you see this developing, right? What's a way to navigate around this? Okay. And what we've been talking about in the room and, on the Saturday webinar with members, private Twitter, etc. For me, again, I can share what, the way I'm looking at things through my trading eyes, but that may not relate to you. So you got to take what I'm saying about it and what I'm doing about it and try to translate that into your strategy. Okay. And I think the opportunity is, if you're a long only player or a long mostly player like I am, okay, the opportunity becomes when you get these type of washes, these type of fades, and the shorts get excited. The call buying or the call sweeper activity that comes into that, I look at as an opportunity on an intraday basis. Okay. Even more so when the market's not up. Like today, the NASDAQ, I don't know, what was it, up 120? So even this dip here late in the day, I didn't have much of an interest in, because the flow was kind of messy. You had a lot of earnings flow. You had Brexit. So I wasn't interested too much in this because we were already up so much. Okay. But it becomes, I think, even a better opportunity if you see that into a flattish or weak market, especially weak market, because you'll get a lot more squeeze out of it. Okay. You get those red to green squeezes, etc. But at the same time, in my opinion, you got to keep in mind here that at some point there is going to be a breather and a wash that comes out of this. Okay, so you got to be careful trying to get too greedy on that side, right? So it's the same thing like the shorts, right? They get run over, and then there's a squeeze, and then there's another fade eventually. That's pretty much how you're looking at it on the long side. And your opportunity, your window of opportunity, is on an intraday basis off the fades, right? Fades or lengthy consolidation. In other words, we go choppy for a couple hours through lunch, and you see an uptick in sweeper activity. That's our edge. Sweepers are giving us a heads up that there may be some momentum that comes out of this. All right. For me, if I don't see that obvious uptick in sweeper activity, I'm not going to participate in it. But that's me, because that's basically my edge. The only way I feel good about a squeeze coming out of it is if, is if sweepers are confirming that for me. All right, so those are the things I'm paying attention to, and that's what I'm looking to capitalize on an intraday basis. Okay, and what you realize, you see, like in the mornings too. In the mornings, the last couple of days, we come, whether the market's been up, flat, down, call sweepers come out off the opening bell and be grabbing the ball. Okay, and that snowballs into momentum, right? Yesterday, we were actually down, and call sweepers came right up into and soaked it up. So, those are the opportunities I think you got to look to take advantage of and stay away from the mess. Stay away from everything else. Okay, on the short side, you're asking the wrong person. Okay, because what makes the short side so difficult, like you could come in here and you can say, I'm going to short this niner here. We're a little too stretched, and I'm going to try to catch something like this. All right, but for the most part, you guys who short know damn well this is not enough. Otherwise, it's not even worth it for you. You probably just wait for a long setup. All right, you're looking at the big picture and you're saying, wow, we got some room here to the downside. I'm looking for more than that. All right, so that's up to you. But the problem is, if you're going to sit for that bigger move, you're going to get squeezed hard. All right, and I don't have the answers, hence why I don't short, of how you survive something like this. Okay, because chances are, I don't care who you are out there, you're bullshitting if you're claiming that you just started to short today into the closing bell. Okay, that's bullshit. At some point over the last week, you tried shorting, and the likelihood is you got run over. All right, so the only way to do it, and there's not too many who even do that well and can survive it. You guys see Lucci do it time and time again, is to take those stabs, right? Take those stabs, those small stabs, see how it materializes. And then once you get run over, you got to take your lump and, wait for a rally and do it again and take a lump. And depending on how many lumps you could take, maybe you are involved in the bigger move lower. All right. But again, that's what makes the short side so difficult, is most traders, most of you guys, you don't like to take lumps. You don't like to take losses. And if you're looking to short a top, you better be ready to take even more losses than playing on the long side. And just because it's a bear market, don't think that, and I think that's a big misconception. A lot of traders out there on the retail side thought, oh man, we're in a downtrend, we're in a bear market, we're in a correction, money's going to come easy, right? You had tweets on Twitter claiming, oh yeah, I made so much money in the 2008 blow up. They're all full of baloney. It's all garbage. Bear markets are just as tough to short. Here are your opportunities, okay? In bear markets. These liquidation phases, okay? Or a couple days in the middle of this. But if you think about it, you're going to be so tight and so quick to lock it in, worrying about getting squeezed. That's where you got to weigh your options and say, is it even worth me? Is it even worth doing it and risking an opportunity on the long side? And those are the decisions you're going to make, okay? But like I said, I told you guys from day one, I can count, I don't know any traders, okay? Or I shouldn't say any. I don't know many traders that find consistency, all right, in any magnitude that any of us can handle playing both sides. If you guys think you could, you're the one in a million that can do it, that's fine. All right, you can believe the bullshit stories all you want. It's difficult for a reason. There's a lot of emotion involved. There's a lot of bias involved. All right. So again, the reason I went into this rant again is because you're seeing it happen right in front of your eyes with what's going on right now. Shorts trying to be tactical, even bulls trying to be tactical and catching a move to the downside here, and it's just not going to come easy. So what I think happens out of this, okay? So I think bulls and bears we both have to be quick here. Okay, we both would like to be quick here. Okay, if you're a long only player like myself, you want to stick to fades. And on a swing basis, if you're a long only player and you're looking for a swing, from this point, for a decent risk reward, you need weakness. You need weakness. Okay, because here's the problem on the long side. You may catch a winner today, right? By flipping it tomorrow, the next day. You may catch another winner and flip it the next day or two. All right. But if you're flipping it, the likelihood is you're not making that big of a profit to catch the bag, in other words, to offset the bag that you're going to get caught with on a wash. And that's what you got to be looking at. Okay. Is it worth me buying Amazon up 60 today to try to flip it over the next couple of days, or get caught and having those things get wiped out on my ass? That's your risk reward. Right? And, down here at the start of the rally, you could have made a different case, obviously. But up here, the likelihood that you have a significant rally from this point before a wash is unlikely. Nobody, if you're getting along the name, you don't see that wash, right? You don't see that coming right now. You see Amazon up 60. Oh my God. Whew, look at that day. But you could have said that on this day. Here's what I'm talking about. Okay, here's what I'm talking about. This is your risk. See this? You know how good Amazon looked on that day? It looked fantastic. It looked fantastic, my friends. Guess what? Little gap up the next day. Ooh, you were cooking with gas, weren't you, right there? God, she looked beautiful. And then what the hell happened? You understand what I'm saying? And what are you going to do, when you get caught in something like this? You're done. Are you going to stop yourself out? How much of a loss do you take? Did the one winner you had before that offset that loss? Was it worth it? These are the things you have to think about before you pull the trigger, because when you think of them on the fly, that's when you get into trouble. All right, so that is, in my opinion, the risk here to the upside. And again, the risk to the downside, you probably have that risk reward in your favor, but for Christ's sake, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. All right. And listen, me personally right now, I want weakness. There were a couple names today. There was one name in particular that was red that I was contemplating swinging in a small way. But ultimately, that's what I said to myself. I can't buy on a day NASDAQ plus 150. And I know I'm going to have more confidence in any flow that comes off a pullback into weakness than I'm going to have going into a 9-er day tomorrow in the overall market. All right, but these are the big boy decisions you got to make. These are the big boy and girl decisions you got to make if you have intentions of winning more than you lose in this game. And that's what it comes down to. All right. As far as any of the stuff you're hearing out there, for the reasons and the reasons why we may be going lower or the reasons why we may be going higher. If we're talking about those reasons, they're meaningless. They're useless. All I know is we are going or are already starting to see the reasons why this market was a shit show, excuse my French, for the last couple of months. Okay? Little by little, we're going to start to get all the reasons why. Economic numbers, earnings. I mean, look already. Okay, and this is another opportunity I'm looking at, but again, it comes into weakness. Okay? I see a lot of opportunities, especially on an intraday basis off weakness, but the key word is weakness. Okay, you had yesterday, the banks have been awful, right? The banks have been a disaster. And we're going into bank earnings. And like we spoke about, we said, listen, we're going to get an answer to a question we were all trying to figure out and wasting our brain cells on. What's factored in, right? Is the negative stuff that's out there that we hear about all day long from everybody and their mother, is how much of it's factored in to the stock price? Some of it has to be. We know that. All right, so Citigroup yesterday comes out and poops itself off the earnings report, right? Awful earnings announcement. And the stock down pre-market, et cetera. I think it opened up lower. And then lo and behold, some call buying comes in, normal buyers come in, the price action looks healthy, and you get a red to green scenario, followed by another follow-through day today. Okay? JP Morgan, same thing. I think I read something was the worst JPM quarter in quite a while. Right? Down pre-market, down at the open. See some call buying coming, some call sweeper activity come in. The price action starts to look constructive. Red to green. So I think going into the earnings season, you guys know me, I hate earnings season, but this is one in particular I'm looking forward to, especially a lot of these type of names that have been battered for so long. We're going to get a good idea of how much of this mess is factored into the price, and we don't have to even try to figure it out. If there's call sweeper activity, and those of you who are looking at price action and technicals, if you see some constructive action right there, you got weakness and at the least a day trading opportunity there. And if you're looking to swing something out of that, at least you're getting it on weakness and possibly some cushion off the intraday move. So I think that's a good place to look for the time being as this market finds a way to frustrate bulls and bears equally here. All right, and we got a ton of earnings, ton. And there are names, I know some of you don't like to trade them, but outside of tech, you got a laundry list of names that have been destroyed. All right, so those are things, again, short-term trades where you can have the opportunity, earnings out of the way, you get that red, and you get an opportunity for a long trade. And Gordon's saying, I bet they pump and dump these banks just last. It's possible, Gordon, but again, how do we know that? We have no idea. We have no idea. The only information we're going to have is that into weakness, into awful news, the total opposite reaction took place. Where, if you remember, Gordon, the banks, every mouthpiece on CNBC was screaming to get long these banks up here at the highs, all the way down into the lows. Right? There was nothing but good news behind these banks. Rates were going up. This, right, Gordon? They're trading their book values and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So what we need to start changing in order to find a bottom, Gordon, as a whole, is we need the news to get bad and get worse, as bad as possible, and the opposite action to take place. So bad news, and the stocks are finding a way to go higher off that bad news, or at least seeing the selling dry up off that bad news. And I think once we start seeing that, especially out of the sectors and groups which this bear market tornado hit first, once we start to see that type of bottom action first, then we're starting to get somewhere here. Then I think we're starting to see some constructive signs in the overall market. All right, and there are a ton of earnings, and they're not all going to do the same. So that's why you have to pay attention to both the flow and price action. I'll give you an example, another one, GT. I don't know if they reported today or what, but there was some negative headlines tied to their earnings, and China was worse than expected. India, their business in India is dramatically slowing down. They weren't expecting that. All right, so same thing. You would think, okay, if it's factored in, maybe we see some call sweeper activity and some constructive price action. The total opposite happened. All right, we saw put activity heat up, and this thing just completely fell out of bed. Completely. Look at this. All right, so that's why it's not as easy as we can brush each and every name the same way. You want to pay attention to the flow and the price action to see some positive signs out of it. All right, and listen, maybe things change in GT next week after some more weakness, but you're going to get the answers of what's factored in and what's not, at least over the short to intermediate term in some of these things. Okay, it may not be long term, because even the market, is looking out 6 months ahead. Maybe there's, something worse on the horizon. It's very possible. Very possible. Okay, we wouldn't even be shocked by that, being in a bear market. All right, but at least for the short term, the intermediate term, there could be some opportunities out of that. And you guys follow a ton of names in different sectors, so all your favorite names. We saw that. Remember, we were talking on Saturday in the members only webinar, like Lennar and stuff like that. Same type of reaction. And guess what? Home builders, again, one of the first initial groups to get hit over the head. All right, but my gut is telling me, based on prior bear markets and environments like this, the likelihood is these need to find a bottom before this market can stabilize and the worst is over type thing. These things have been going down in a straight line all year. Look at this. From January. All right, so the likelihood is, these things will probably see some bottoming activity before bottoms in place here. Sean's asking, do you use the squeezometer the same way during earnings season in lieu of the skewed flow? Yeah, the squeezometer's been, Sean, a little tricky of late, because the market action basically has been one-sided. Okay, so rather than, I was hoping we get that volatility like we had in some prior bottoms, where there's some shakeouts over the course of days, okay, where we'd get a green squeezometer, look for an entry, for a swing, or for something there. We just had a ramp here. Okay, but I use the squeezometer more for just an overall market, a read of overall market sentiment on an intraday basis. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, and as for the flow you're asking, I'm looking, again, no matter what it is, weakness, a green squeezometer, I want to see call sweepers confirm what I'm hoping for. Okay, so if it's weakness, I'm looking for a long entry in. I want to see sweepers get aggressive into that weakness. If I see put sweepers, I'm not just going to go in and buy weakness just because it's weakness, because there could be further weakness. You know what I mean? So on an intraday basis, Sean, the best way to look at sweepers in general is as a momentum indicator. All right? When you see call sweepers start to get aggressive, like we have, right? What they do in Facebook, Sean. Boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, right? One after the other. When you see that band of action come in, all right, you look at that as a momentum indicator on an intraday basis. Okay, that's telling you there's a high probability of some upward momentum coming into the market. All right, put sweepers, the same thing. When you see that aggressive put sweeper activity come in, it's telling you the momentum is south, right? It's to the downside. Now, at the same time, when you see like what we saw in the afternoon today, Sean, a lot of mixed action. There was a lot of blocks, not a lot of sweeper activity, but mixed. If you can't, put it this way, if you can't make sense out of the sweeper activity, if you can't tell if it's bullish or bearish, what it's telling you is there's no edge out of momentum for you. Okay, so the best thing to do is do nothing. Exactly. So if you're looking for intraday trades, that's the best way to use sweeper activity. And that's why like these and you guys know me. I mean, I've come across a gazillion indicators in my lifetime, and I haven't found too many that really line up with what I look for and look at. But that's why I fell in love with these Niners, especially on an intraday basis, because they sync up with what I'm looking at on the flow and sentiment side so perfectly. So perfectly. A lot of times, and it blows my mind. I almost think to myself, am I just looking at it this way? Am I forcing myself to think this way? Like I bug myself out because a lot of times we'll see a red Niner, like a Niner. How you guys see me on private Twitter too, mention it. And call sweeper activity just hits a brick wall. Like it gone, dead. And then, you see the market just kind of flots around and the flow die out. So it syncs up, to what I was looking at initially anyway. I don't want to buy this rip up here. Right? So what I'm looking for these type of Niner lows where sweeper activity confirms there's buying coming in. Again, this is on an intraday basis. All right. Yesterday, the same thing. If you remember, you had that was pre-market, I think. Wait. This is ES, so I got to get back here. I hate that I can't blow these charts up, though. This is ES, so forget after hours. I want to show you like market hours, whatever. But you get the idea. So when you see a Niner like this, right, you see some selling. There's a Niner there. That's where I'm looking for, like I mentioned to you, showing that band of sweeper activity that's confirming momentum. Okay, so if sweepers come in, they start hitting Facebook, the AMDs, the Apples of the world. Forget whether I like the sweeps or not for a swing. That's irrelevant. I just want the sweeper activity to hint to me that there's a high probability of momentum coming in here. All right, and that's where you can look for an entry, whether you're playing SPY, ES, some SPY calls, and raise stops along the way, or just scalp it, whatever is your pleasure. All right, and the same thing with the red Niners. I wouldn't look at them as sell signals, even though they're pretty good. Okay, but what I would look at them as, I mentioned this to Havana in the room today, look at it more of where you don't want to put on any additional risk. You want to wait for a breather, All right, because a lot of times you won't even see a drastic pullback, but you'll see something like this. You'll see buyers get tired. This is a 5-minute chart, okay, on ES. So you get something like this where things slow down a bit. And it always offers up, this one was money. This was the high of the day here. And if you happen to see some put sweeper activity there and you do play the short side, that would be your window to short, right? Into strength, into the highs. If you get some put sweeper activity there confirming that, on the flip side of what I do, that would be your short. But to answer your question, Sean, for me, I need the sweepers to confirm. If I get a niner, okay, let's say here, and there's put sweeper activity, I'm not buying into that. You know what I mean? I'm not buying into that. So that's what I would suggest with any of you who are members out there. If you can't make the case to yourself that there's some bullish sweeper activity coming in, Sean, that's what I'm getting at. Like if you can't say, all right, there's some buying coming in here, then just sit tight. What's the worst that happens? You miss one long opportunity? You want the high probability setups that line up with what you're looking at. All right, so I'll get to names, Bob, in a second. I'll remember your Netflix question. So that's another thing, just to get on what Bob's talking about. We had some really aggressive activity. Facebook has been one of the best names activity-wise. All right, but you're getting a little stretched here now. And I know Facebook has been a disaster. Okay, so maybe that comes into consideration. Maybe there's more upside. But as far as anything outside of a scalp right now, I can't make the case for an entry up here. I just can't. You got to understand the sweeper activity now we're starting to see up here. The likelihood is these are players that started buying down here that are rolling their profits now. All right. So if you missed it and you're pissed off, what you want to see is Facebook now breathe, pull back for a couple of days, right? Shake out some riffraff that's late to the party, and then you see that sweeper activity heat up again. That's what you want to see for any of these names right now. That's why I'm kind of excited about weakness when we do get it, because I think that's where the true colors come out. Let's say we get a dip for a couple of days, we may not see any call buyers come in. There's a good possibility we see put sweepers active again. The momentum style put sweepers, right? Those momentum players, they're playing the upside, they're playing the downside. But that's normal. Depending on where the momentum is, that's where they're going to be. All right. But at some point, we're going to see call sweeper activity come into a pullback. And I think that's going to be telling. That's the spot that's going to be telling. Wherever it may be, when we see call sweepers activity come into weakness and they started getting aggressive into weakness, that's going to tell us a lot more about what we have on our hands than this squeeze, because we're still, as much as we've come here, that we're still in squeeze mode. This is just squeeze mode, in my opinion. This is straight up squeeze mode. We're not seeing any sector rotation, concentration. There's some decent looking orders in the mix, but this is all out squeeze here. There's not much stock picking, not too much stock picking going on. That will change eventually, and that's what we got to keep an eye on for. All right. Anybody have any questions about any of this as far as sentiment? I know a lot of you guys come on here for to get an update on sentiment. Short term, we're above neutral. We're not as cooked as you would think we would be because of this little choppiness we've been a part of. So that helped a little bit. All right, but still on a risk-reward basis, obviously not too favorable. Okay. More importantly, the intermediate term sentiment, Okay, so that's a longer term view, which had been extremely favorable, is still in good shape. As long as if we can find a way to chill out here over the short term, we still, in my opinion, can have that intermediate term sentiment support. And what that does is you feel good about any serious weakness. There should be some buying there, right? Barring something systemic or anything like that. All right. So if we can find a way to chill out here, we'll still have that in our corner. And that's a huge plus, I think, into any weakness. All right. So that's it, basically. That's all I wanted to touch base with you guys on as far as that's concerned. Yeah, and as far as swing, like what I would recommend, and you take it from there, you know what I mean? But for me personally, if I see a good-looking sweeper that I like into weakness, okay, I don't mind holding that overnight for a swing type play as long as it's into weakness. You understand? Because what that tells us is that even if we are heading lower and eventually going to test these lows or whatever the case, it may be one of these things. It may be one of these. Hold on. I got to get my Madden drawing board out. Right? And this is what nobody takes into consideration, because they think, our minds just go into straight. Oh, Jesus. Hold on one second. Our mind goes straight into thinking everything's in a straight line. So you get this, then you get this, then you get this, what is this? What the hell is this? It's supposed to be lines. You guys know what I'm talking about. What is this? People actually use this for handicapping stocks? What is this, a butterfly? Looks like a butterfly. But you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Down, rally, down again, rally, and that frustrates both sides, and that there's a possibility that can happen, for a stretch here. How do I get rid of this crap now? All right, anyway, let me get to some of your questions. And you like that? A moth. Yeah, that's a moth. A moth. That's the moth indicator, Ranchero. All right, who's got some names for me that they're eyeing? Netflix. Bob was asking about Netflix. Netflix was seeing some crazy sweeper activity, mostly squeeze sweepers, but similar to Facebook. Just a lot of them and a lot of chasing there. Now, this thing is cooked. For me, it's cooked. This is just cooked here now. I know you had some positive news again today. You're going to have earnings coming up here. In my opinion, there's no edge at a flow or anything for that matter in Netflix. You got earnings. I'm sure they're factoring in a monster move premium-wise. So I don't see much of an edge here. If you tell me maybe you get a pullback tomorrow, the next day, and you think there's a bounce before earnings prior to that, you want to be tactical, that's your call. But for me, Netflix is gone right now. Facebook, same thing. A lot of these things for me are gone. Most of these things are gone. They're gone. I would make a blanket statement for each and every one of these things. You need a pullback and then, a little breather, and then you could start looking at the action again for even short-term trades. Yeah, Microsoft caught probably the best-looking bet today. You could make that argument. The only problem is that you have earnings here. It's likely tied to that, and you're going to have to navigate around that. But Microsoft caught the bet today. Who's got an earnings date? Microsoft. Because nobody had a confirmed earnings date. We were seeing 1/30, January 30th. Anybody have a concrete date for Microsoft? It is the 30th? All right, that's what I figured. Here was the bet. Let me pull it up here. I just can read it better. Hold on. I mean, the thing was a cannon. Where is it? It was definitely a cannon. Where is it here? Where the hell is it? Oh, here it is. Caught some, smaller activity around it, even a block. But this was a big one. So you had a sweep February 1st, 104s. Basically was a $2 million bet, all said and done. Opened a new position. Came in when the stock was 104 and change. I mean, this is a big bet. This is a big bet. So depending on, what you're looking for out of it. Again, you got earnings in the middle. That's going to be a problem with a lot of this stuff. So it's up to you. It's up to you. If you didn't buy it yet, I mean, I would suggest, like everything else, I know it keeps getting corny, but wait for a red day and see if you get some action into there. That's, I think, your best case. That's your best bet. All right, but Microsoft looks better than some of the others as far as spot, because you had a rally here, but nothing psychotic, not too stretched. It actually came off a little tug here, right? Came off 4 days here of a breather. So it looks interesting. Worth keeping an eye on. I don't know what you guys want to do, though. You're going to hold it through earnings? How would you play this? You're going to have to hold it through unless you hoping to get a run up prior. Yeah, it definitely looks good. If earnings weren't in the way, Up to, so you're looking for just maybe a push higher into the number, right? Which can definitely happen. Yeah, I mean, Gordon, personally, I would wait for a down day, and I know it's not a big deal, but you'll see how much Microsoft weakness there is. If the market, let's say, falls apart, you might have saved a bet there, But if you still like the name, you got a better cost, probably less juice because people aren't as excited. So you might be better off there. Let's get to some names. JD Sean is talking about there's been some squeeze action there. This thing, let me shut these lines off here. This is getting annoying. Okay. You had some squeeze action there with everything else off the lows. What's going on with this guy? Is he going to jail or what? Does it matter? The CEO? Earnings are in March. I haven't seen a bet, Sean, that really got me excited. It's been basically squeeze flow, but the spot is not that bad. Oh, really? He's not being prosecuted? Interesting. JD can catch good-looking sweeps, but you'll see a lot of garbage action in JD. And in my opinion, JD hasn't caught the sweep. Yeah. I would keep it on the watch list. And they can really come after it, Sean. They'll make it pretty obvious when they do, too. They can hit it $500,000, $1 million sweeps and multiple sweeps, too. We've seen it time and time again. And it's always a tough trade, Here's some of the sweeper activity. So you had Microsoft, we just went over. Bank of America has been seeing flow with some of the other banks. They have earnings, I think, at the open tomorrow, right? Here was another size bet, CCJ. It had some time, though. All right, this is Camco Uranium, right? I think. And this thing's been holding up well. This thing has been a turnaround play. The CEO has been looked at as God there, who came in there. So basically, they've been buying dips in decent size for a while. and then just came down with the market. But look at it. It's right back to basically where she's been. And today, they hit it pretty hard today. But you could see, like, look at this. Look, okay? And this is, I guess, why I'm so against buying strength. Like, see here, you get a nice rip, strong rip, and then you get something like this. Like, we never want to look at it in something like this because sometimes they don't catch flow into that. That's the problem. They don't always line up where they catch flow into it. But now you have some size flow. I'm sure you have earnings coming up at some point, and you're back at highs here. So same thing. Had a strong day today. I'd probably wait for a little bit of a breather if you're looking for a decent swing. Maybe fake breakout here and chops around, plays dead, and then that's where I would be looking for an entry. But that caught, let me get to that. What was the line? Oh, June. Oh, these were June 2021 calls? Is that what that was? No, that's not it. There was other action there. Hold on, there was other action there. That's not it. I know I got a couple questions regarding this thing. That's why I'm just, here's the action today. This is it. June 16. So you got time here too. See, right? You got a decent amount of time. So you could probably be patient there. You could be patient. But again, put it on the watch list if you're interested. Put it on the watch list. Throw some names, guys. While I'm looking on here, you guys throw some names you may be interested in. I'm curious to see what names you guys are looking at anyhow. Even if you're waiting for a poll, whatever the case may be. Facebook, there was rolling out in Facebook today for the most part throughout the afternoon. JP Morgan, we spoke about. Into weakness, there was some flow. This is all the action here. Oh, here's the action. CCJ, that was a block. CNQ, that was a block. Celgene, that was a block. It wasn't anything too hot today. I'll go over a couple what caught my eye in a second. Boeing, let me see. Boeing, I haven't looked at. We haven't seen anything recent there yet. But it did catch some action within this squeeze here. Yeah, same thing. Boeing on a rest. On a rest. On a rest here. We're running into a lot of red niners. It's going to be a true test to see how much strength the bulls have here. But same thing, guys. I know you're tired of hearing it. I would wait for a pull. Williams talking about Roku. Yeah, Roku. You know what's crazy? Again, Roku. Seems like I kick myself in the rear end every time with this. Roku was one of the first names to see some decent call sweeper activity before the market even squeezed. Okay? It was into the lows. And remember, a lot of us in the room were like, why are they sweeping Roku out of all things? Maybe they're hedging a short, blah, blah, blah. Make a long story short, that was one of the first names that caught action before the squeeze. And the action's still been bullish in Roku. So you got a nice little breather there off a nice rip. Disney, we saw a little bit of action off a headline today in Disney. I don't know how significant the headline was. Where's earnings there? Earnings here. But a good name, showing to keep an eye. I would keep an eye on it off any earnings weakness, without a doubt. Definitely in that category. See these Niners, though? And we're seeing more and more. You see these red Niners here? Nailing tops. By the way, most of you who are members know, you know what tomorrow is, right? What comes after 8? What comes after 8? Tomorrow's Niner Day. Hump day, hump day. Uh, they might hump some bulls tomorrow. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how. Here was the last one you guys remember. This is what happened. If you remember, 8 was an up day, but not by much, I think. And then we gapped down. Right day. I like that, Ranchero. Ranchero labeled it right day, where you can write some premium. Very nice. But yeah, so this was the niner, the last niner. The one before that nailed the highs up here. So us bulls, you can't feel too good about that going into tomorrow. But I'm excited for weakness. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm excited for a little breather. I'll take what they're giving us on an intraday basis and stay patient, and then we'll see what we got. We'll see what we got. All right, so careful tomorrow. Careful. They like to sometimes gap these down anyhow at the open. We'll see what happens. What other names we got here? CPB. I saw a little action in it the other day, and that looked halfway interesting. Campbell's soup. Oh, look at that. She's grinding higher. Yeah, we saw some action last week in CPB, and it looked interesting. There were some leaps being bought too. Havana red niner tomorrow. You see here, look. Today was an 8. So you see how this light up red right here? You see the red shadowing? It's giving you a heads up. Mañana, you might see Satan. So tomorrow. See, like here? Same thing like here. 8, you see a little red shadow, and then 9. So I don't know how the details work. Yeah, Steven, I was just going to say that. I don't know. What would get this, what would wipe out the 9? I think it has something to do with one of these here. If we if we close lower than one of these here, I'm not sure which one. I let DeMarc do the math, and I just, look at the signals. Like you see here, 9 actually was a gap down. It might be 6, but I think we were higher than 6. So, but Steven makes a good point. Maybe, because it's not much difference here. We've been sideways. If we get a lower move tomorrow, that might wipe it out. We'll see how it plays out, Steven, but interesting. All right, but again, no matter what the details are, what it's telling us. It's just another signal of everything else. All right, that it can get tough here on the upside. So the risk reward is tough here without a breather. That's what the Niners are telling us. It's not telling us crash. And look at the past, okay? Like, I get it, it's a bull market, but I'm just giving the example. All right, this was a bullish environment. But you get Niners, and sometimes you just get little breathers here, right? Niner here, this was a little more of a pull. Niner here, a little sideways action, but we were in all-out bull mode. Here's a good one, like this. This is the point I'm trying to make. Like a Niner can lead to something like this. It doesn't mean Armageddon. It doesn't have to be the top like this. Doesn't have to play out that way. So it just tells you might be in for a little breather. Havana saying looks like it's been higher highs and lower lows, and that 8 is consolidation. Now you're talking technicals. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is what we want. Havana is this. We want doot, 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 and you get that. Maybe that's what you mean. High or low scenario. That would be nice. You get a little pull, and you get a type of high or low scenario where this stretches out to, could even be to the top of this downtrend and still be bearish. like think about this. Like think about these are all options, legitimate options. Let's say, again, doesn't have to be in a straight line. You get a little pullback here, right? Comes down to here. Over the course of a couple of days, whatever it may be. Then we see some call sweeper activity. All right. And then you get a little bounce up to here. And then, another little pull here. And then another here. And we could be in a full-fledged bear market. And this happened. Right? This is what we were talking about, if you remember, on the webinar. Okay? Here's your downtrend, right? That signals the bear market, right? Top, high, lower highs. But off this pullback, that was a decent entry for the rest of this move. Very possible. Very possible. And that's where I think the flow can help us out. Because if this doesn't happen here, I don't think we're going to see much of any decent call sweeper activity. That's what's going to be the signal that, maybe it's not a higher low scenario and we're going all the way down here to test lows. If they decide not to buy any of this pull, because if you guys remember, where is the February one? That's what happened in February in the panic attack. We had this big yank, right? Then you had call sweeper activity and a squeeze. And what happened was this pullback here, this is where some decent call sweeper activity popped up. And then you had another move here, right? And then let's say same thing, you're waiting for a pull. What happened was there was no call sweeper activity again until we got down to the bottom again. So that's the stuff we need to pay attention to. If we're out of this bear market officially, you're going to see this continue, that trend continue. And here's the thing too, you're going to see put sweeper activity just disappear. When we get out of this officially, put sweepers vanish. You see isolated put activity. You see protective put activity. You're going to see buyers show up into weakness, and that's our signs that we're getting out of here. Elliott waves, yeah. This is an Elliott wave. What's Elliott wave? Elliott wave. Watch, I'll show you Elliott waves. 1, 2, 3. The 3 of 3. That's dangerous, right? I know my shit, Steven. Look, 3 of 3. And now we got to wait for a 5, right? Out of this, a 5 down. What's the word they use? Could be a truncated 5. You like that? You think I don't know my shit? You make fun of me. But that could definitely play out. That could definitely play out. So again, nobody can predict any of this, obviously. But it's good to just have an idea of, how things may play out. And again, that's why I like looking for buyers into weakness. That's why I like weakness. I think all your answers come out of weakness, especially with, sweeper activity. The real sweepers, all right, the sweeper activity that gives you the most information comes into weakness. When the market's rallying, there's always going to be that momentum squeeze sweeper activity that we see, right? Those 500 lot weekly players, they're always going to be there, and they're useful for momentum purposes, all right? But bigger picture wise, the true colors come out into weakness. That's what tells you, that's what tells me anyway, that lows are in or a higher low is in place. That's why no matter what the order, I rarely can get excited about any size sweepers into strength, because the real ones come out into weakness. All right. Anybody else have anything to add? I might have skipped a couple of your names. Did I skip anybody? Anybody's stocks? Apple, I don't know. That's a tough cookie. Apple, again, earnings. I tell you, the Apple news, in my opinion, bottomed this market, right? That was like the negative headline that we needed to see for a short term, well, exactly what we saw, a squeeze type thing. But again, another example of negative news and a different looking type of price action, not even in Apple, just in the whole market as a whole. So we'll see if that carries over into. What about anybody looking at any banged up sectors? Anybody looking at anything that's been hit pretty hard? The home builders have been acting well. I know you guys actually made a little bit of money in the casinos, right? These things should bottom ahead of time. Celgene. That's the one. Wait, Celgene got bought, right? I like the action and BMY showing better. I like BMY, the action there. Now, granted, you had a nice day here today. So, but if you remember, Sean, they did some decent buying into this gap down on the Celgene news, and the activity has stayed pretty bullish. So out of the two, I like that. INSEE got upgraded. Goldman Sachs convention buy list. Wow. 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 That's some rip, huh? INCY. Yeah, there's been decent action again, but this is old news now. I don't want to give you guys old news, but some biotechs, this AGN, look at this. Caught some big time action. So hopefully we see this, hopefully we see some of this into any little pullback we get. Any little pullback. They sized up in this AGN. Had a little time. I think it was, what was it, March or June calls? This AGN. They were a little bit early, a couple days too. I think it was right off this 9-0 right here. So they were a little early for like a couple days, and then with the help of the market, nice squeeze. But there's been some nice names in this biotech group out of this squeeze and all. What was the other one? There was another one, a little one, that's been moving. I can't think of the name. Whatever the case. All right, so pray for some rain. Hopefully we get a little bit of weakness. And, the most telling sign will be call sweepers soaking up that weakness. They do that, we have an idea of what we got on our hands. We could have a nice intermediate term rally, and then we'll take it from there. Another number I wanted to throw at you guys, some of you who aren't members, an interesting number, that McElliott number. You guys know in the room what I'm talking about. Charlie McElliott, that's the guy from Nomura. His number where he says all those quants that were net short, all in short, flip to bullish is, I got it on ES, was it 2630? What? Oh, that's not the right ES. Right here, this red line. 2634, 2635, right? Was that the number, Stephen? So that's a number that all these quant and what are they, the CTAs, all that stuff, where they went net short. They just go on numbers, right? Nothing else. That's where he claims, call it 2635. If we can close above that, they have to flip to bullish. So another little interesting number that we're really, really close to, by the way. Really close to it. So basically tomorrow we got a niner. We got that McElliott number. We got a lot of stuff brewing here. All right, guys. We're all good? Awesome. Enjoy the night, everybody. If anybody's new, wallstreetjesus.com. If you have any questions, you'll get some answers there. All right? Be good. Enjoy the night. Good luck the rest of the week.